All right, awesome. Welcome, everybody. This is their first Reap report of the season. I know it's a big comeback. It's going to be
Mhm,
Lucio
mhm,
Horde here hosting
mhm.
it. And today, my special guest is going to be this all-star studded player, part of one of the most competitive teams in the Reap Smite League
Mhm,
right
mhm.
now, the
Yes,
Bargain
sir.
Bunch. And this
Mhm,
is Muffin Man. How you doing, man?
mhm. I'm feeling great, and I'm obviously feeling great about this team. When I think of a hyper competitive team, I'm always thinking of the bargain bunch. So we're gonna be looking to go right into the season strong off here and
Yeah.
hop right in.
Yeah, for sure. Let's hop right into this Reap report. For those of you who are
Mhm,
just joining us, haven't seen one of these before, essentially the way it's gonna work is that we're gonna go through each one of the matchups that are gonna be upcoming,
mhm,
and then we're gonna kind of talk about what we think on the casting desk. So that's all of
mhm.
our regular casters that attend our meetings and talk about, hey, who do we favor and why?
Mhm.
And then as the weeks go on, we'll have a review portion as well, where we'll talk about what went right, what went wrong in different matchups the week before, and once we have power rankings, we'll talk a little bit about those. But important note before we go crazy into this is do not take these things personally. Do not go home,
Mhm,
write to your
mhm.
mama like you're on the war front, basically being like, "Dear mom, the casters were very mean to my team today." Bro, we barely know anything. We got two brain cells. Some of us
Mhm,
chair
mhm.
twos have three, and that's
Mhm.
how we operate things here. But this is just gonna be a little fun. So let's start with the first matchup here, Muffin. AFK versus Imaginary Bishops. In fact, this will be a review, but you can tell me a little
Yeah.
bit about what we predicted, and then tell me what you saw.
So what we predicted were first off, the players that we wanted to watch were Blizzato, Novel, and Italian Breadman. And unfortunately, Novel didn't show up to the game. But Blizzato and Italian Breadman both put on a show out there. As Italian Breadman, if you didn't know, because his Discord name is different. He is the solo laner for Imaginary Bishops. Both him and Blizzato did put on a show, especially if you were watching that game 2 Ho Yi. We saw multiple triple bounces come out and a few double bounces in there as well. So those were definitely the players we wanted to watch, as well as there were a lot of new players on these teams, and this is something I expect to see coming through with the SDL. Something we're going to constantly talk about here when we're talking about SDL teams is that there's a bunch of new players in here, new to Reap, new to Comp, looking to get their first set of footing, and both these teams had quite a few here. If we look back at the actual game, um, Imaginary Bishops, especially in game one, got their footing, but AFK Farmers was really in control of it for the most part. And until Imaginary Bishops in game one, they had that nice little comeback, that little stride of a comeback, and they almost turned it all around. But once those two Phoenixes were gone, and they made a slight mistake deciding to go for that Gold Fury, um, AFK Farmers was just really in control that whole time.
Yeah, I mean it's a tough loss to have at the beginning of the season, but it's one that I think when you highlight, hey, look, they lost, but they showed signs of life. That's actually being something that they can build on going into the rest of the season. So that's what we hope here for Imaginary Bishops. It's not something that we should
Mm-hmm.
discount or count them out of the season quite yet. And again, I think losses early in the season are good. That's been my
Yeah.
strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Lose early, win, get somewhere
Well,
late.
eventually you have to start winning, though. So you got to work
Uh,
on that part. But
Yeah, well,
mhm.
yeah. Well, okay, cool. No, it's cool. It's cool. Whatever. We're gonna move on into the next matchup now. Let's talk a little bit about Feeding Frenzy versus Phoenix. How was the vote broken down?
So,
What should we look for?
well, the vote went up, and Phoenix had all. It was a unanimous vote for them, and the big reason is because we recognize most of those names on that team. They're a spiritual successor to a season 3 Reap SDL team, and we recognize quite a few names on that list. So, it's no hate to Feeding Frenzy. We just don't really recognize nearly as many players on that team as we do for Phoenix. Now, there is something that could be a little bit of trouble with them. Phoenix is in a little bit of a roster hopping situation. They might have to use two, maybe one or two subs in this match because they do not have a filled out roster. Um, so that could definitely become a problem for them. But we are very confident in the players that are on that squad as a really strong and very solid SDL players.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's one of the things that we actually could highlight a little bit. We'll get into it more as we
Hmm.
talk, but that roster apocalypse happened early this season in
Hmm.
particular. It happened
Yes.
before the season even began, to be honest. A lot of rosters maybe not as complete as they want to be right now. And so this
Mm.
first week is going to be a lot of experimentation. And that even goes for teams that do have their roster filled out, like Feeding Frenzy, as you highlighted. it's a newer team on the block, newer names, but that means that they're going to kind of challenge these already established teams, established players with new play styles, some new god picks, new meta. So I'm looking forward to that. It's definitely
Mhm.
going to be an exciting game just to see where Feeding Frenzy really puts themselves. Do they beat the casters' kind of predictions? We're just going to move on into our first RSL matchup. That's
Mhm.
going to be tomorrow at 6 p.m. It's going to be Triple Mids versus Mind Goblins. Tell me a little bit about the vote. What do you expect? And then I'll take it away in terms of what I think should happen or
So
might happen.
yeah, I mean, when we looked at this game, it's very hard to come up with a with someone if someone made a tier list on their tier list, Mind Goblins was almost certainly their number one on their tier list. That roster is star studded to the extreme. Almost
Mhm.
every single one of their players has either been an RSL or an SDL All Star. So I'm definitely not surprised that the caster vote went fully in favor of Mind Goblins, and especially with triple mids, as the name implies, they did draft three mid laners, and that could put them in a little bit of a tricky situation when it comes to roles, as not everyone's going to be in their most comfortable role on that team, and that's going to be something they're going to have to deal with and tread through, and maybe this early on in the season, they might not be able to get through with it, even though they've shown quite a bit of promise. I'm not. I have to see I want to see them stack up against them and see them really show up to what they can do.
Mhm. And I mean, like, I think you hit the nail on the head about Mind Goblins really is going to be this projected number one, number two
Mhm.
seed. Pot. I wouldn't be hard pressed to think of anybody putting them below a number three seed in terms of like
Mhm.
projected where they're going to end up. Their team is just so well constructed. The draft went really well for them. And that's just one of those teams that's going to be the team to beat moving forward. And this is going to be a good opportunity for triple mids to kind of prove themselves, even if you take an L in this game,
Mhm.
showing that you were able to take them to a game three or take them to two highly contested games. That's already
Mhm.
giving you a lot of room to grow, a lot of potential there. And I've played with a lot of players on triple mids, and they're some of the best players in their roles. They have a lot of potential
Mhm.
and a lot of room to grow, and they have that drive as well, knowing
Yeah.
them as players. My concern is the same thing that you highlighted. They are triple mids, man.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's only one mid slot, unless you
Yeah.
want to put mages everywhere, which would be funny. You put one mage in the each side lane, then you got the mid. I mean, I guess that could work, right? But
Yeah.
that would be my concern: is how do they adapt and get
Mhm.
there? And the next set that we're going to talk about comes right after. Comes in at 9 p.m. and it's with this really garbage team against Monkey Business. So tell me a little bit about Curse Cowboys versus Monkey Business.
Cursed Cowboys versus Monkey Business is, if I remember correctly, the only tied vote from us casters here. It was a quick 2-2, and the reason why is that Monkey Business is a little bit of an unknown team. We have a little bit of insider information on some of the players because Lucio knows quite a few of them,
Yeah.
but overall we don't have like that. We cannot look and see how they're going to do in this league, but we do know that they all know each other and that they're all a group of people who are going to have really good synergy with each other and they're going to be a really good group of people. But the reason that the Cursed Cowboys tied up with that is because we've seen proven time and time again how good Rose is, how good Skills is. Lucio's transitioning into that solo lane, and he's been looking pretty spicy if you've been watching his scrims. So just looking at that, it's hard to count him out, especially when you're talking about unknowns and when you're talking about and when it comes to unknowns, Monkey Business is the number one there.
Hey, look, and not only that, look, it's in the name, Cursed
Hmm.
Cowboys. It's hard to vote for a Lucio team. That's
Hmm.
all I'm gonna say. That guy has some cursed luck. Loses games he
Hmm.
should, wins games he shouldn't. Just how
I
it be
I
sometimes. And
cannot lie. This is the first time I've voted for Lucio since I've been in these meetings. So,
whoop, whoop,
we made it. We made it, boys.
we made it. So definitely one of those things to look out for. See where Cursed Cowboys, because where Cursed Cowboys can actually set up. Like you said,
Mhm.
they have a lot of talent, but they're missing a lot of that synergy.
Yeah.
Speaking personally, none of us had actually really played together. Me and Rose have played together a few times, but that was at the beginning of his Smite career. I haven't played with
Yeah.
him for a long time. So this is gonna be one of those situations. I
Mhm,
know for a fact that Monkey Business has synergy. I've played with them. I probably have
mhm,
more synergy with Monkey Business than my team right now because I
mhm,
played with them for years, my guy, and they played
mhm,
with each
yeah.
other for years. So that's definitely gonna be one of those situations of how well will that
Mhm,
synergy execute. I expect a 3 game set, and that's my own team. That's just how I think the dice will
mhm,
roll, and I hope that they're competitive. Something I'm definitely looking forward to. But another game I'm gonna look forward to is one of the most competitive teams in Smite in the RSL right now.
mhm, mhm,
Honestly, going to go against some group of friends or whatever, but it's
mhm,
really this competitive team in the bargain bunch against the Friends League Bully Busters,
mhm.
right?
Yeah,
And
and
I don't even know, man. This is just gonna be an easy W here for the
yeah,
bargain bunch, I think.
I mean, honestly, if I just had to look at it, I don't think there's any chance. And the casters agree with me as they voted Bully Busters to. Wait a minute.
Wait,
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
I
They
thought
voted
we'd
Bully
use some
Busters. A quick a unanimous Bully Busters. Hmm.
surprise. I am shocked. I mean,
Oh
honestly,
man.
where's our censorship, man? Where is the
Yeah.
censorship here? We gotta
Where?
work on those.
Yeah. I don't.
But
Quite
no,
unfortunate. Yeah.
in all seriousness,
Hmm.
Bargain Bunch is in one of those teams affected by that early
Hmm.
roster apocalypse.
Yep.
Things are in flux. A lot of role swaps are in motion for that team. Bully Busters also has role swaps, right?
Hmm.
You have people moving to the jungle, you have people moving out into the solo lane, a lot of things,
Yeah.
but they also have a lot of synergy. They are still both of these teams are groups of friends, to be honest. Like that's
Yeah.
not a false statement.
Hmm.
And it's just going to be a tough situation here for Bargain Bunch. I think Bargain Bunch as a team really need to look to having a strong showing,
Hmm.
regardless whether or not it's a win or loss. They just want
Hmm.
to show that they're going to be competitive in this league
Yes.
and keep that mental strong and start looking for options. Maybe try out a few subs in this game, see
Hmm.
who might be able to replace some of those slots that they don't have filled out right now. While Bully Busters really kind of need to put this one in the bag. Because if they don't put this one in the bag, that's a big
Hmm.
question mark. I'm not gonna lie. This
Yeah.
is not one that you should lose.
I
And
mean,
that's
I mean, a
no
big thing that the Bully Busters have that the Bargain Bunch don't have is 5 players.
yeah.
So so getting into it, it's a little bit of a rocky start, but I expect this team to come back. I expect this team to see a lot of great improvement, and I think Bargain Bunch is going to be one of the more fun ones to watch when we get towards the later end of the season.
Oh, I mean, I think that's true. I
Mhm.
think Bargain Bunch is gonna be a lot of fun to watch. But let's talk about the last SCL match for this week. That's gonna be Sunday, 6 p.m. Daddy Daycare versus Nachos Supremos. What do you think about these teams? How did we end up voting, and what should we look for?
So the vote was a 3-1 in Daddy Daycare's favor. And to be honest, I don't blame them. There's a lot of strong players on Daddy Daycare's. There's Bearded Brow, we see Dom, Die, Aphrodisiac, and Jargon. All have seen some extremely strong performances in the SDL. Some very strong players. We even see some new players on that team, but have shown strong performances in either our prospect games and some other things that they've played in and have really just shown out. But the one little question there is Nachos Supremos has got quite a bit of synergy with each other, and they've also got their star mid laner Narcos, who is a menace in his role.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be an interesting matchup, I think. Like it's again this talent versus synergy, and that's really something that symbolizes how well some of these drafts went, right? And how different captains prioritize different draft strategies. Some captains really wanted to draft a team that was mostly based around the talent that each individual could bring to the team, as opposed to some captains said, "Hey, look, I'm gonna draft friends that I know are talented, maybe not the best in their role, but I know if I put them in a system that works with them, they will be the best in their role and will shine as a team." And so this is going to be one of
Mhm.
those matchups that will really highlight which one of those draft strategies went out, at
Yeah.
least in this week, at least this week, right? Over
Mhm.
time, things could change. None of these things are definitive answers for who's making
Mhm.
it and who's not making it into playoffs or how far they go. But you want to start off well here in this first week and start talking about starting off well. We want to talk about the last set overall. It's gonna be Sunday at 9, so make sure you don't miss it.
Mhm.
Hell's Minions versus the Wingers. Tell me a little bit about that matchup.
So, and I mean, when we're looking at Hell's Minions versus the Wingers have to overcome some of the early roster issues that they've been faced with. if I recall correctly, they've had 3 people already switched out on that team and are already gone from that team. So they're gonna have to kind of overcome the roster apocalypse. They haven't gotten as much time to get ready with that team. And Hell's Minions has some really strong talent on that team. Kitten's Panda, when he's shown his strides, has been extremely strong. Kyber has just been extremely strong. Um, Atomic Hawk is a little less unknown, but he was a big factor in getting them that one win they had. In the Action Days is one win that they had last season when he came in, and so there is some talent there, and there's a lot more this season when it comes to Action Days' team, and so that's why it was voted 3-1. Hell's Minions versus the Wingers.
Yeah, this is gonna be a similar situation to what we talked about versus Bully Busters versus Bargain Bunch. The Wingers are gonna be crippled by the fact that they just don't have 5 people to fill out roster slots. They just don't. And that's a
Yeah.
fact of the matter, and that is going to be detrimental to any team. I don't care how cracked the other two are. I don't care how cracked your sub is. Not having any synergy whatsoever going into a competitive Smite match is going to be a difficult thing to overcome. So that's why I really expect here Hell's Minions to come in and just take the bag. You got to take the W in this regard. You should try to look for a dominant performance as much as you can in order to basically solidify that, hey, look, we're not gonna slouch over to anybody. We're not gonna pretend like there's a free win. We're just gonna open the door and close it right in their face. While the Wingers here are at least trying to put a foot in that door, trying to make sure that they're saying, hey, even with the 3 that we got or the 2 that we got, we're gonna put up a performance. We might even take a game off of them. We could even take the set because I'm not gonna discount that, right? Anything could happen, but for Hell's Minions, you really got to start off this week with a dub, especially in that type of situation. And that really wraps up this little preview for the week in terms of that. I mean, tell me your general thoughts about, we haven't gotten a really big, how do you say, area to talk about how we felt like the drafts went out or how we feel about these teams coming up or this RSL season overall. We've been around for a long time, you longer than me. How do you feel about this season, man? How do you feel about the draft?
When I'm coming into this season, for the RSL base, I think there's one team that kind of is looking to stand on their own pedestal right now, but I don't think any team is I don't think that they're so dominant on that pedestal. I think that there are already people that are looking to kind of scratch at it and climb at it, and if you've been paying attention to their scrims, they've had a few issues in them. So maybe if you know what team I'm talking about, it's going to be Mind Goblins. Maybe they're not as good as we think they are, or maybe they're looking to come out here and show us that they are the best, and that they are going to come out here and prove that they're number one. And we'll just have to wait and see about that. But as for the rest of the teams, I see a pretty close pack between them, and I see a lot of different variations on who goes where. And to be honest, I don't blame people. There's a lot of unknowns this season. There's a lot of new players. There's a lot of new teams, new captains. Extremely weird and different draft strategies came into play this season, especially for the RSL coming into play.
Yeah, I think at least in the RSL part, I think one of the things I'm most excited about, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is one of the first seasons where you don't have a legacy team really.
Yeah.
Like one where it's 4 players from the same team of the last season. Like we have a few that are 3, I believe. We have a few that are
Yeah.
2.5, kind of, but none that are straight up 4 people from last season are playing together again this season. That's not happening. This is going to create like that dynamism that you're talking about. This versatility and volatility in the bracket. Like, for all we know, man, we won't know who the first seed is until week 8, week 9, maybe. It's just going to be one of those things that that we'll have to see as it goes on. I'm really excited about this season. I think the draft worked out spectacularly for most teams. Again, roster apocalypse is not something that you can always foresee, but it did happen, and now we're going to have also more opportunity to see how these teams adapt, and that's going to create some exciting like moments for these teams. Maybe you get that princess story of like, dang, bro, we started from the bottom, now we here type of thing. But we'll have to see as the season develops. Any last closing remarks that you have before
speaking of roster apocalypse a little bit, the Bargain Bunch has a game coming up this Saturday, and if you'd like to be our support sub,
Oh,
shoot
no,
me a
hold on.
DM, man. Shoot me a DM, man.
Hold on.
I'm looking at people.
In the spirit of fairness, I gotta at least say, Mark might be looking for people too this week. If you also want to try out for more than one team and you're in the RSL and you're trying to fill out some slots, let Mark know, let Muffin Man know. They're both
Mhm.
in that Reef Smite server. Hit them up, at them there. Those are gonna be good opportunities for you if you're still a free agent, to try out and see what happens. Um, but if that's your closing remark, now that you made this a promotional ad, I'm gonna I'm gonna go ahead put my own little closing remarks here.
Mm,
We are excited to have everybody back for this
mhm,
season. We're excited to see how things get casted along
mhm,
as the season goes on. We're ready to bring you some great games, so stick around. And this Reap Report will be probably at this time every week. So make
mhm,
sure that you are here, get recapped, look at a little preview, disagree with
mhm,
us, hit me with hate mail later on, whatever you want to
mhm. Make
do.
sure you do that.
Make sure you do that part,
Mhm.
especially. But
Yeah.
otherwise, stick with us, man. We got the schedule out there. Make sure you're watching our games and catch the game in 30 minutes.
Mhm.
That's actually what I'm gonna leave it off on. Have a great night, and that'll be all.